Darius Adams decommitted from UConn over the weekend. This one is of interest to you and I for a variety of reasons that we will get into very shortly. But first, Darius Adams is a very highly rated recruit. Depends on who you ask. Some have him listed as a five-star, some have him listed as a four-star incoming freshman in the class of 2025. Notably, played at La Lumiere, aka La Lu, in the state of Indiana. That's been a feeder school to both of our programs, Michigan and Michigan State, through the years. Darius Adams is a combo guard, 6'5", only listed at 165 pounds, but he doesn't look frail or all that skinny on the film. Uh, Presumably a guy that I think you would project as a rotation player basically anywhere in year one, just based on pedigree and the offensive stuff he brings to the table on film. He was a UConn commit. I think that made sense at the time. He chose UConn over Michigan State and Tennessee were the final two. Alabama also pursued him back in his original recruitment. And, commits to the two-time defending national champions. Nobody's really knocking that. It was him, Braylon Mullins, Eric Ryby. You're feeling good about that as a core. Well, then the offseason started. Dan Hurley got his head out of his ass, brought in some great guards from the transfer portal. And I think Darius Adams looked at that situation and said, this is not what I signed up for. I thought I was coming into a situation where Hassan Diarra was leaving. You didn't have great backcourt play in the first place. I'm going to play right away and help this team. And situations change. Guys need to reevaluate what they want to step into. Thus, a decommitment from Darius Adams. For what it's worth, I have not heard anything on record from Adams or his camp. Sometimes a guy will do this and then sort of kind of go public with the reasoning for why. But honestly, not to, I didn't even mean to make this parallel, but like you saw Trey Holloman leave and had a tell-all with his family within 48 hours. Adams isn't exactly saying why he left. So the idea that he's leaving due to playing time or role is an assumption that I think anyone would make just from looking at the situation. There's also a possibility that this is about the financial side of things. Not to say UConn wasn't going to pay the kid, but there's a bunch of kids in this freshman class right now and the portal that are basically hearing what kids are going for and redefining the number that they're asking for to play college basketball next season. So a lot of moving parts here with Adams, a lot of moving parts in terms of who's pursuing him as well. We'll get to some schools that we have heard are involved, including, I think, your team's interest in Darius Adams. But first, Cart, what's your overview of Darius Adams? Would this be a good last-minute take for a championship-wishing program?
Yeah, I do because I think the talent is there with Darius Adams, and I do think that he could, depending on the program he goes to, there's a possibility he does start year one. But also, just I think given his talent, even if there's some other guards in place, he's a guy that you could, I think, count on to be a really good bench piece as a freshman. And when this is happening, it's actually I don't know if it was because Darius Adams had happened to it, made me think about it more, but like this type of like decommitment is going to happen more often because of the transfer portal, right? Because basically you're committing to a school and you are, the coach is bringing you in and he's not really recruiting other players at the time. But once the transfer portal opens, he's going out and getting guys that are, vets or maybe even better players in some situations. And given that UConn got Demery and they got Malachi Smith, who I don't know. I've heard some murmurs that Darius Adams did want to try to play a little bit of like point guard, like backup point guard maybe. But yeah, I think you're going to see this situation a lot more of guys decommitting once coaches actually go through a transfer portal cycle and add players. But I think that Darius Adams is a player that should be, highly coveted. Being able to pick a player of his, I think of his talent level up at this point would be a win for a program.
I think it definitely would. Just general overview from me of Adams. I think he's a take for anyone, like any school in the country that could get Darius Adams at this point. If you aren't feeling like you are completely locked in with your backcourt rotation, you should get him. Like at minimum, this guy is like an off the bench piece that plays 20 minutes and has a lot of upside. Best case scenario, he hits and he's a starter. Maybe best case scenario, he hits and he's a star even. I don't know. You never know with freshmen like this. The last two freshman classes have been loaded. So to me, you get a guy ranked in the 20s in a class that we feel really, really good about. In a normal class, he's probably closer to, around the 10th best player in a class. So you watch the film of him, I see the vision with him. I think he moves really well. I think he's a dynamic scorer, guy that can sort of run an offense a little bit. I don't view him as a pure point, at least based on what I've seen. Now, if he and his camp are saying he wants the ball and wants point guard reps, obviously that's one thing. But to me, I can't really imagine a team that wants to win at the highest level would employ Darius Adams as a point guard. So, in that sense, Michigan State might be a good fit because he could still get some of those point guard minutes backing up Jeremy Fears at that spot while also playing a lot of minutes alongside him at the two guard spot. But do you agree with me? Like, do you see it working for him if he wants to play point guard?
Not necessarily, no. I just don't really view him as such. I don't think that is something that would accentuate what he does well. I think he's like a kind of off ball two guard shooter type of player. And that's not to say he can't have the ball in his hands a little bit, but not as like a point guard role. I think if worst comes to worst, maybe you'd want him to play a little bit of PG, but I don't think it's something that you'd be seeking out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, one of those things where like he can do it, maybe he wants to do it, not something a team should necessarily try and employ here. Um, so before we get into the schools that we've heard are after him, because I asked around on this, and there's just some like stuff that's leaking out there on who is pursuing him. As I mentioned, Michigan State is one of the names mentioned. Um, before we go to that, what's the actual like ceiling ability here? Because like I feel like I remember when you and I were doing the UConn talks, and like it's a good get. You wanted him the first time for sure. And then I think like as time went on, we both were kind of like, yeah, he might not actually be all that. Like he's a fringe five-star type, but I think if we were making a list of kids in the 2025 class that like we really think are underrated versus we really think might be a little too highly rated, I think he'd be on the too highly rated list. And I know we've also like asked smart people that cover prep basketball that we have relationships with. They generally share the same consensus. Like I will say, Cart, Dan Hurley recruiting his backcourt to the point that this kid doesn't have to play is a data point. Dan Hurley's not an idiot, and Dan Hurley's not over recruiting Braylon Mullins, and Dan Hurley's not over recruiting Eric Ribey. Dan Hurley's over recruiting the guard spot because I don't think he wanted Darius Adams in the rotation this year, even though Adams was in the fold. So, like I have the McDonald's All American game. I remember watching it. Adams was one of many stars in that game. Adams was one of only two players in the event that did not score. In fact, the other one was the other UConn commit, Eric Ribey. But Adams went 0 for 3 from the floor in 12 minutes, 0 points. I don't, you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to shit on the kid. He's a take anywhere. No doubt. There's upside here. But if you like bring him in last second to like be the face of your offense, I don't know that that would actually go all that well.
No, like, and I get what you're saying. I get what you're coming at from here. It's like guys usually in Adam's position, or maybe even Adam's, pedigree, like of being a French five-star guy. Maybe they have aspirations of being like a one and done or like 2 years in college. I think that Adams is a multi-year college guy, and that's not like a slight. I think he could be a really good college player.
Do you think
But
Adams believes that though?
no.
That's part of the issue for me. I think he thinks he's a bona fide one and done, and the ability just actually isn't as good as what the sort of sell on the prospect is.
Yeah, because I just think that there's still some work to be done with him, and even after that, I just think his ceiling is kind of like a really good college player.
Yeah. Okay. For what it's worth, I agree there. Again, I can feel the way I just felt about sort of like the overall ability with him, and also truly mean it when I say any program should want him. Like, get him in the fold. You don't know whether or not I'm wrong. You don't know whether or not he's going to hit or not. At minimum, even if he's not a hit to me, like he is a rotation player anywhere. You put him in a 20-minute role at worst, and he is going to do good things on the basketball court. Where I would get concerned is a team bringing him in basically saying, you're the guy. I
But
don't think that's going to go well. At the same time, a year ago, if we had done this exact video about Jace Richardson, I would have said the same things, and so would have you. So if Michigan State does bring him in thinking you're the guy and that's the pitch, maybe it works and maybe it proves me wrong in thinking that that wouldn't be a good fit. To the schools that have recruited him. So the early reports here from Trilly and other sources are that Alabama leads. Michigan State supposedly pursuing, Vanderbilt supposedly pursuing. I've heard outside of the Trilly world, Trillyverse, that Texas Tech may be involved here and reached out very quickly after this happened. So you've kind of got a weird mix of schools here, Cart, of like, you know, Alabama, Michigan State, championship caliber type schools. Alabama very high on one end of the NIL equation. Texas Tech, you keep repeating unlimited money, and they're looking for a backcourt ad. They're sniffing around Denzel Aberdeen as well. Um, Vanderbilt's a weird one because Vanderbilt, I think, actually has money, but you're not really going to Vanderbilt to win. And then Michigan State would sort of be the one in the middle here where, like, I think pretty clearly you're not going to Michigan State for the money, but you would go to Michigan State for playing time, for the Jace Richardson pitch. Of all these schools, Texas Tech, Vanderbilt weren't recruiting him hard out of high school.
hmm.
So presumably it was Michigan State or Tennessee that lost to UConn, but Alabama was also in the mix, just didn't make the final three. You see that list of schools, your school's on it. Do you feel like this is a winnable recruitment for Michigan State? We interrupt this sleepers video to tell you about an offer from Underdog Fantasy. Cart, you love Underdog Fantasy, correct?
Of course I do. Can I have a moment real quick?
Please. Thank you for that. In fact, I'm going to cut you off because our listeners like when we keep these short and sweet. Underdog Fantasy. Sign up as a new user. Use promo code SLEEPERS. Get bonus funds up to $1,000, 50% of your deposit match. The NBA playoffs are rocking right now. I played Underdog last week with a Cade Cunningham line. I'm looking forward to doing it throughout the entire first round of the NBA playoffs, but there's more. You can place picks on golf. You can place picks on baseball. You can place picks on the NHL playoffs that are rocking right now. Join Underdog Fantasy, promo code SLEEPERS. Support this show so that we can keep bringing videos to you. Back to the video.
Yeah, I mean, kind of maybe. The only thing that originally doesn't make me feel great about it is one, if I'm seeing Vanderbilt on here for him, then that's screaming at me. Like that's literally screaming at me. I don't think they have a two guard currently. He could probably come in and play all the minutes right away. A lot of money playing the SEC. That could very well be a part of this. Um, Bama, I look at them and what they have at the guard. I guess they're losing Phylon. They got Aiden Holloway back. They got Houston Mallet, I think, coming off a red shirt. I'm not sure what other guards they have. I think Right Cell will be back as well, off an Achilles injury. So interesting, maybe what his role would be, but maybe he sees Nate Oates' offense there and thinks that's a thing. And I think Texas Tech too. They've already added some guards, some two guards in his spot, some older ones, and that do a lot of things that he does, shooting wise. So for some reason, Vanderbilt's really screaming at me in that list. And also for what it's worth, just like my gut feeling is that Michigan State isn't gonna necessarily go all that hard after him. And I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but it just strikes me as them not doing that.
So I thought it was good to hear Michigan State on this list for two reasons. One, when you have a relationship, a history with recruiting the kid, and a player this talented comes available at the last hour, obviously you should go all in on trying to get it. It really is the perfect fit in terms of what Michigan State still needs. They need a guy who could slide over, play some point guard. They need a talent ad at the two spot. Boom. This would basically solve where the roster's at. It's a perfect fit in that regard. The second thing that excites me is I really thought after adding Trey Forth, there was a chance that Michigan State might just be done and might just sit on things. So this seems like at least a pretty clear indication if the staff's actually interested, they're still working. This cycle's not closed. Maybe I'll eat my words on this. I'll gladly show up and eat crow if so. I think this is a winnable recruitment for Michigan State based on who's on the list, but I don't think they're ultimately going to land him. If they do, Izzo deserves like a total round of applause for it. You're basically going up against if we really truly believe it's Texas Tech, Alabama, Vanderbilt, and I think someone mentioned Villanova as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Guess what? There's a bag involved. And I understand everyone everywhere across all fan bases right now keeps looking at me with recruitments and being like, it's not about the money this time. And every time I think you and I roll our eyes and say it's pretty much always about the money. Now there's select situations where it's not, but like this is the landscape right now. A five-star commit that decommits at the last second knows what the market is. He has an agent already. The agent's job is to get this kid as much money and get him to the league as quickly as possible. And like this stuff is readily available now. We know what the best shooting guards in the portal are going for. Dame Sarr was supposed to commit to Illinois for way less money than he's currently asking for. Guess what? His agent found out how much the market is going for right now. Like it's shifting, it's evolving, but if agents are doing their job well, there's a price tag attached to kids of this caliber.
Right.
And I think the reality is a school will overpay for Darius Adams, whether it's Vandy, whether it's Villanova, whether it's something else. Like players of this caliber are just going for at least $2 million. And as far as I know, I was just asking people in the MSU Discord, maybe you have more info than me. I don't think Michigan State has a player on the roster making more than almost half of that, maybe a little more than half. Isn't like the rumor is like 1.1 for Cohen.
Yeah, I think the highest is like one.
So you would basically, if we believe Darius Adams is going to get market value, which the other non-Michigan State schools on this list would indicate this would be a financially driven recruitment, or at least he will have those offers. Michigan State, in order to pay him fair market value, would basically need Tom Izzo to look at his entire roster full of vets that he's developed that have come through this program and say, hey, I'm going to give more than double my highest paid player currently to a freshman that didn't want to play for me 3 months ago. That seems so out of character for Tom Izzo. Like, even if they can do it, I can't imagine Tom Izzo would do that. So, to me, in order for Michigan State to win this recruitment, you're going to have to convince Darius Adams to take way less money than the other schools on the list are going to offer him. And again, Michigan State could do that. I would not put it past them because I think of every school Adams is being targeted by, Michigan State does have the best opportunity of on-court stuff, playing time offerings, the ability to play a little backup point. You can literally sell the Jace Richardson role. It's a damn good pitch, and you have a pre-existing relationship. But I still think like it's very naive to think that any kid in this day and age is going to take that over $1 million more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like also like from things I've been hearing, Michigan State's in the market to add a backup point guard.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what they're looking at right now, and Adams wouldn't necessarily fit that role. But also at the same time, as I say that, if you can get him in the fold and convince him to take less money and convince him to, you know, there's some guard minutes on this team, then you 100% do it. But from everything I heard, that's not necessarily the focus right now.
Can I say this? I know obviously money's a touchy subject with this stuff because I'm never insinuating Michigan State doesn't have money available for this stuff. I'm just insinuating the approach that Tom Izzo takes is not money driven.
Mhm.
Never has been, never will be. If Michigan State matched the highest offer here, I think Darius Adams is a Spartan immediately.
I do too. Can I be my negative Nancy for a second?
Sure.
I would be pissed if all of a sudden, like now, is like when we decide to flash the big pockets, like for Darius Adams.
Ooh, elaborate on that for me.
Like I can't be picky here because like I've been begging the team to flash the big bucks. But like, couldn't we have flashed the big bucks at others? I think there's better players to flash big bucks at than Darius Adams.
It's honestly a good point. If you got this kid for 2 million, you could have gotten like a portal star for 2 million.
Right. I'm like, we
You
could have
didn't
been like,
approach. Yeah.
I couldn't say anything because they actually did it, but it's like, damn.
Oh, but maybe Izzo sees more value in a high school kid that he built a relationship with, and like you said, presumably thinks he could maybe get multiple years out of. But yeah, again, I feel like I've said this on a lot of different videos with a lot of different fan bases this year, Cart, and I always get shit for it in the moment. You gotta sometimes step back and look at these situations like 1 + 1 = 2. Adams is leaving UConn partially because of situation. But when a player of that caliber leaves that has agents involved already, they know what the market is. So the schools on this list, four of the five that we mentioned, are going to pay him market value $2 million to come to their school. Michigan State has not approached any recruitment of any player this year, even their own retaining players, with that type of money on the table for one player. So
Yeah.
let's make this pivot too. Look at what Purdue did this offseason. If a player that deserves it comes through Michigan State, I think Tom Izzo would pay it. I don't want to say he would. Like if Cassius Winston could play one more year at Michigan State, I think Tom Izzo would pony up $4 million the same way Braden Smith's getting that much from Purdue, right? But
Mhm.
I think there is a level of you've got to earn it and you've got to deserve this. I'm not just going to come to the table with this crazy lump sum of money. And it would just be it would be the first time, as far as I'm aware, it would be the first time in this era that Tom Izzo has approached any recruitment with that type of money for a player. And to me, Darius Adams being that player would just be shocking. He's not a proven commodity. He's a true freshman that, again, snubbed Tom Izzo months ago. Like, I just would be shocked if he came in and said, you can be double everyone else here.
Yeah,
You know?
and also the other quiet part out loud. If let's say they do give Darius Adams $2 million, current players on the team are gonna be like, all right,
Right.
great, crazy.
Which,
That's
by the
crazy.
way, there are pros. I don't want to shit on this approach. There are huge pros to this approach from Izzo. The cons are that you end up not getting the most talented players in the portal or wherever. The pros are you actually do build this huge sense of loyalty from your program. Guys do develop. Guys do stick around. Guys do feel confident that you're not going to torch them. It clearly works. This year's the data point on that. But that's like, I feel like repeatedly I see every fan base get really excited when there's like a name in the portal and it's like, ooh, this would be perfect. We're involved. This would be perfect. And it's like, logistically, you're going to have to do something that isn't the whole identity of the program here. So
Right.
maybe it does. Or like I said, maybe Tom Izzo convinces this kid to take a huge pay cut and come to Michigan State. Do you think that there's a world where that happens?
No.
You don't think that's a realistic route here?
No, especially because if I in the back of my head too, I'm Darius Adams' agent. This next 4 years, I think, are the most money he's gonna make as a basketball player.
Yeah.
So we need to capitalize on that, all four.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think there's a chance it happens, but I don't think it's likely. Like once you hear Vanderbilt, Texas
What
Tech being thrown around.
also, I guess, end it like this. What percentage chance would you put that like because I guess I feel like we've kind of put it down a little. Like there's a world where Darius Adams does become like an NBA guy, right?
As a one and done,
No, just like eventually.
I think he will play on an NBA roster almost certainly at some point. I
Okay.
trying to figure out a way to sugarcoat this a little bit. I much smarter prep basketball minds than me that I know are not believers in Darius Adams' game. So I like they could be wrong. I don't know. They've been wrong before. But like sometimes like you just throw a name out, it's like this guy's gonna be way better than the people think. This is one of those where the consensus seems to be like this guy is not as good as his ranking. So, but I don't know. That's why this college choice from him is massive because you need to go somewhere that's going to maximize you. And I do think Michigan State would do it. If it's not Michigan State, where else on his list do you think is the right decision for Darius Adams? You said Vanderbilt, something that keeps sticking in your gut, but like Like Bama has a lot of guards right now, but would he play over the Bama guards?
I don't think so. No.
He might. That's the thing. It's like you got to beat like Houston Millette.
Yeah, Pepperdine bucket getter.
Yeah,
I don't think he plays over right. So,
probably not. Probably
um,
not Holloway.
not Holloway. So like he's automatically the fourth guard.
I, it, so again, 1 + 1 = 2. People thinking he's leaving UConn strictly to opportunity turned immediately into Alabama leads for him. It's the same exact depth chart situation. Like, if it's only about opportunity, Alabama wouldn't be the first school named right now mentioned on the list.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say Vanderbilt or Nova because Nova doesn't have a roster and they got a lot of money.
Nova needs guys. I still feel like if Texas Tech doesn't get Aberdeen, I think Adams would fit there. Him
Yeah,
and
true.
Anderson in the backcourt.
Yeah, be a good pull.
But again, if it's truly about opportunity and role, Michigan State's the pick, not even close here. But I'm just skeptical that's the case, as I was with Dame Sar, as I've been with a bunch of guys this cycle. So we shall see. Interesting player, late ad. We'll keep following this recruitment in the coming days. Stay tuned for more.